About a year ago, I announced that I was making a game about water that had never been made before. It's inspired by Avatar the Last Airbender series, and it's about the waterbending ability, but with actually realistic water. Not generic cartoonish water magic that you usually see in video games. Actually transparent, fluid water that would make you feel like a real waterbender. Well, there is a reason why you don't see water like this in games. It is incredibly hard to make. The clear look is one thing, but the actual behavior, the movement, the physics, it is just on a whole different level. And if you want to know some of the other reasons why water is just impossible to make, you can go watch my first devlog about Twisted Waters, where I've talked more about how water is made in video games. Also, pay attention to how naive I sound, because who in their right mind is going to take on this insane game that has never been made before by herself? That should have been my first clue. But you know what? I stuck with it, and this is me 1 year later wondering, did I just waste a whole year of my life making a game that shouldn't exist? Hey, it's Tamara here. Let's start from the beginning. Last year I made a video telling you about this new cool game that I was making called Twisted Waters. I was really drilling down on look of water at the time, making sure it was accurate, even though at the end a lot of you said that it looked like mercury, which is cool, you know, mercury bending and all, but it wasn't what I was going for, so I got to fixing right away. But then my video kind of blew up a bit and it started reaching a whole new audience, which was really exciting, but also brought a lot of anxiety and pressure to make the best waterbending game to ever exist for all the Avatar fans out there. One of the major concerns people had was, where are the water moves? And I said, hold my water. I already knew the moves that I wanted to include. I just needed a system to fill in the blanks. So I came up with a plan. I would do everything in 3 stages. Stage 1, super rough prototype, for me to test and get a feel of the moves. Stage 2, testing version, so that I can have someone else try out the moves when they're a bit more done. Stage 3, polished. Camera-ready moves that I can show you and everybody else, update my Steam page, etc. And considering the way that I set up my water system, I knew it was going to be fairly easy to implement the moves. Or so I thought, because what came next changed everything and made me question if this entire game was even possible to make. I gave myself 6 months to get my water moves from prototype to camera ready, so I have time to spare just in case. That was a year ago, more actually, because it took some time to make this video. At first things were going fine. I started with some optimization which knocked down like 20 FPS, which is huge for me. I actually have you guys to thank for, because your comments, your suggestions led me to this, so thank you all. After that I moved on to the moves and decided to add a wave, because what's better than water? More water! But immediately there was a problem. Because of the changes I made for optimization, adding a new water shape was not as straightforward as I anticipated. Instead of an easy shape swap, I had to separate them into 2 different objects. At first the wave kind of looked like Aladdin's rug, so I added some deformation so it can look a little bit more like a wave. Not exactly how I imagined it, but good enough for stage 1. I also implemented some of the attacks, which I want to talk about in a separate video. But then I got to testing, and I found out that my previous optimization wasn't enough. I had to go back to it. And let me tell you, this was the hardest, most exhausting task. I wouldn't go into much detail because it's literally too much information for this video, because I've spent over 2 months learning about rendering, learning Unreal, and dealing with so much C++. At one point I even considered going into the engine code, but it's like 200 gigs to recompile. So all of you who told me I was crazy for doing this realistic game in Unreal on limited hardware by myself, well, you were right. But you know what? I actually did it. I solved my rendering issue without recompiling the engine. I have to admit it's not perfect, it still has some bugs and I will have to return to it at some point, but it works. But at what cost? After finishing this great task, I thought I would return to working on the waterbending moves, because that is the most exciting part for me. However, every time I encountered something that wasn't working, I froze. I was afraid that it was going to turn into another huge task, and I just wouldn't be able to do it again. So I made a change. I decided to work on the environment of the game, and it was a breath of fresh air. I made grass from scratch, learned Unreal's procedural content generation, and even managed to make a decent looking scene. It felt so gratifying because I was able to see the progress that I was making, but the open world felt empty. So I decided to start working on the villages, and I accidentally made 1 million houses for them. I have a whole video about it if you want to check it out. I was so excited to show you how they turned out, how different and colorful, and better than I could have imagined. But unfortunately, the video didn't do well, and it made me realize something. You wouldn't want to play the game for its nice houses. You would want it because of the amazing waterbending system. So after the big detour, I got back to waterbending and went straight to work on enemy AI, which should be a topic for a whole different video, but I don't know when it will happen. I keep putting them off until I have something finished to show you for that satisfying hit of dopamine at the end of the video that every YouTuber tries to strike you with. But luckily, I am not a YouTuber. I am a game developer, so I can just tell you how it is. After I put together a simple enemy AI, I asked a few people to try it out, and it went bad. The water combat had a fatal flaw that I didn't see. So after a whole year of struggles, I was back not far from where I started. So did I just waste all this time on an impossible game? No. When I was looking through my work in progress videos, I realized how much progress I actually made. I can see what an amazing game Twisted Waters can be, and because of this whole journey, I now know how I can get it there. So if you were wondering if I'd quit my game, there is your answer. I'm still working on it, fixing the water combat, making smarter AI and better waterbending moves. Hasn't been easy though, so if you want to help me, wishlist the game, tell a friend, like the video, plenty of options that can be done in less than a minute of your time. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye!